Today, the Mitsubishi Mirage is getting a complete CVT transmission service. This is more involved than simply draining the fluid and filling it back up. The Mirage uses two transmission filters, a canister-style filter mounted behind the driver's side wheel liner and an internal fluid strainer located inside the transmission pan. To reach the canister filter, start by safely lifting the vehicle and removing the driver's side front wheel. Next, remove the wheel well liner. Several pain-in-the-arse clips and fasteners hold it in place, but once it is moved out of the way, the transmission filter housing becomes accessible. Remove the filter housing carefully. Some fluid may escape as it comes apart, so have a drain pan underneath it. The replaceable paper canister filter sits inside the housing. Remove the old filter and set the housing aside. A new filter and O-ring will be installed later. With access to the external filter taken care of, move underneath the car and remove the transmission drain plug. Allow the old CVT fluid to drain completely. We like to measure the amount of fluid removed. That gives us a useful starting point when it is time to refill the transmission. Once the majority of the fluid has drained, remove the bolts holding the transmission pan in place. Leave a couple of bolts loosely installed at one end while carefully separating the pan. There will still be fluid trapped inside, and this gives you some control over where it goes. Or just do whatever, I'm not your dad. After the remaining fluid drains, remove the last bolts and lower the pan. With the pan removed, the internal CVT fluid strainer is exposed. This is sometimes called the pickup filter, pan filter, or transmission strainer. Its job is to filter the fluid before it is drawn into the transmission's hydraulic system. Remove the bolts holding the strainer in place, then carefully pull it down and remove it from the transmission. Compare the new strainer with the old one and make sure the seals and mounting points match. Install the new strainer and start all of the bolts by hand. These bolts thread into the transmission, so this is not the place for maximum effort and a 3-foot breaker bar. Tighten the bolts evenly and torque them to the correct specification. Next, clean the transmission pan and the gasket surfaces. Remove any remaining fluid, gasket material, or debris. The sealing surfaces need to be clean and dry before the pan goes back on. Position the new pan gasket and reinstall the pan. Start every bolt by hand before tightening anything. Then tighten the bolts gradually in an even pattern. Finally, torque the pan bolts to the proper specification. These bolts do not need to be excessively tight. The goal is to evenly compress the gasket without damaging it or distorting the pan. Reinstall the drain plug with its sealing washer and torque it correctly. Now, return to the canister filter housing behind the wheel liner. Install the new paper filter and replace the housing O-ring. Make sure the new O-ring is seated properly and lightly lubricated with clean CVT fluid before installing the housing. An O-ring that rolls, twists, or gets pinched can create a leak. Reinstall the filter housing and tighten it evenly. With both filters replaced and the transmission sealed, the new CVT fluid can be added through the transmission dipstick tube. Make sure the fluid being used meets the correct Mitsubishi CVT fluid specification. Conventional automatic transmission fluid should not be substituted. Almost exactly 4 quarts came out during this service, so 4 quarts went back in as the initial fill. Start the engine, hold the brake, and slowly move the shifter through each position. Pause briefly in every gear to circulate fluid through the transmission's hydraulic circuits. Good Lord, Look at the engine. Apparently, all 78 horsepower have arrived at once. The sheer violence of it is nearly twisting the engine straight out of the car. The lower torque mount, the dog bone mount, has clearly decided it wants no part of this overwhelming display of power. That will need to be replaced. Anyway, back to the transmission. Continue shifting through every position before returning the transmission to park. The vehicle then needs to be driven or allowed to run until the transmission fluid reaches its proper operating temperature range. Park the car on level ground, cycle the shifter through each position again, and check the fluid level using the correct hot check procedure for the vehicle. The fluid should be inside the hot range on the dipstick. Because almost exactly 4 quarts were removed and 4 quarts were added, the final level was within specification. We always verify the level rather than relying entirely on the amount removed. Fluid can remain trapped inside the transmission, and an incorrect level can cause foaming, overheating, delayed engagement, or transmission damage. Once the level is confirmed, reinstall the dipstick, check underneath the vehicle for leaks, and reinstall the wheel well liner. That completes the full CVT service on the Mitsubishi Mirage. New fluid, a new external canister filter, a new internal strainer, and one engine mount that has apparently submitted its letter of resignation. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see the dog bone mount replaced. Thanks again for watching.